Felt like a catwalk.
Yeah, didn't it?
It's a long walk out here.
Yeah, Yaz calls it the Madonna stage. I saw Madonna and it was like, we got to do that at Connect. You kind of look like Madonna. Actually, you look better than Madonna, and you're smarter than Madonna. Well, me, I don't know. Madonna's pretty smart.
Thank you.
I'm digging a hole here with this one, aren't I?
Hi.
It's great to have you.
It's
I'm a
great
big
to be
fan
here.
of yours.
Thank you.
What I've noticed, and I've said this to a lot of people, when you kind of came in a year ago, right? Anniversary?
Of being COO.
Yeah, and I'm sure my observations from the outside aren't right, but I just noticed a difference in the company. Not to mention the valuation is now almost $7 billion. So since you became CEO, I think they've added 2 or 3 billion. So anyway, I'm not sure that's the exact correlation.
That's flattering.
Yeah.
You know, I've been at the company for 11 years.
Yeah.
It was a year ago that I went from being Chief Marketing Officer to COO of Zillow Group. And it has been a really great year for all of us.
Yeah. So valuations up, stocks up, your earnings have been great. You're out from under this ugly lawsuit. That must feel liberating.
Yeah, you know, as a company, we were really focused on growing the business, growing our audience, growing our products for Premier Agents. It was important for us as a leadership team to keep our teams focused on that.
Right.
And you can see from the results that, you know, we've grown throughout it. But, you know, as you become bigger and become a bigger brand, certainly companies become more targets for things like that.
Yeah. Now you come from the consumer side, but now you're showing up at places like this, which we're very grateful for. Another face of the company. It seems also to me, and I don't know if my people agree, but you seem to be coming through the worst part of people being mad at Zillow in the industry, as I guess you develop more fans that are making money off you, and I don't know, how you feeling about that?
I spend most of my time on the consumer.
Right.
And I have since the very beginning. And as a company philosophy, we've always felt that if we know the consumer really, really well, better than really anyone, if we can do the research and understand home buyers and sellers and homeowners and build great products that we love, other things as a business over time will fall into place. So my role as CMO and as COO is largely to focus on the consumer. I also spend a lot of time looking inward and focusing on our people. We're getting close to 3,000 employees now across nine different locations. So we spend a lot of time on hiring and retention with the best people. And I get the luxury of showing up at these once in a while, which is always fun, but I still spend most of my time on the consumer side.
Yeah. So the other thing that seems to be happening, there's a trend out here, I don't know if you know, all these startups, they're all trying to help you all figure out how to convert these hundreds of millions, whatever the staggering number is. It's kind of a disconnect for all of us. 100 million people coming to Zillow, but only 5 million transactions. So there's a disconnect. And it looks like a lot of people out here in the exhibit hall and entrepreneurs are working on that. How do you think about that? It's great everyone's looking at you every day, but at some point, the people that are paying you, which is another type of customer you have. It's not just the consumer.
Yeah, I mean,
there's two sides.
There's two sides of it, because it's interesting. Yes, there are a finite number of homes sold every year.
Right.
But there are many, many more people who are thinking or dreaming about buying a home.
Right.
And so our goal as a consumer-oriented company is to be the place that people start their home search. And we want them to start their home search on Zillow or on Trulia. And sometimes that starting process is many years before. It's when they're a renter and they're thinking about, can I afford to buy a home?
Dreaming of buying.
What does a mortgage look like? Where do I want to live? Maybe we're thinking about having kids. If we move in the next few years, what school district do we want to live in? All of these questions that people ask for months and years before they actually pick up the phone and call a real estate agent and say, help me through this.
Yeah.
So our goal is to have people using our brands before they're ready to buy a home. And you see that then in the numbers of the 100+ million people who use us every month.
So you deliver someone and they're ready. So let's jump into some stuff. By the way, Amy offered, we had this whole talk we're going to do together about some stuff that we both agreed was boring. And so we threw that out the window. And she promised me that she'd bring 5 data sets and insights that hadn't been ever shared before. And some contrarian, which I thought was fantastic. So let's dive into those with the first.
And let me just tell you briefly what it's from.
Yeah.
So we did a pretty groundbreaking study this year because 2016 is a pretty monumental year. We've been through this huge housing recession, the largest housing recession of our lifetimes. Home values have roared back. It is a really competitive market in many places across the country. We've got this whole factor of millennials, and we said, you know, home buyers, sellers, they're different now than there used to be. Let's do some really deep research to understand how and where they're different. So we did what's the largest study ever done in the last couple months of the American consumer. We talked to 13,000 US home buyers, sellers, renters, homeowners, and we asked them a series of 160 different questions.
And they actually answered all of them?
They did, and we all this.
Glad you didn't call me.
We went through all the statistical analysis to weight it. This big report we're doing is going to come out in the fall, but exclusively for Inman, we're going to share a couple of the myths that came through, and I think you'll find them pretty contrarian. So let's see, are my slides up? Yeah, the first myth. Okay, so I'm going to present 5 myths.
Great.
And we're going to decide if they're true or not. Number 1, the market is too expensive for first-time home buyers. We hear this a lot, especially in coastal markets like San Francisco. Home prices have gone up substantially. We've got a lot of millennials and people that are strapped with college loan debt, and we hear all the time the market's too expensive for first-time buyers. So we decided to look and say, ask these thousands and thousands of people, how many of you are first-time buyers? The results really surprised us. Today in 2016, 53%, more than half of all buyers this year, are buying for the first time.
You know, Amy, it's interesting. In the old days when I was a journalist, I think that was a normal market. Someone here is smarter than me with the stats from the past, but I think if half were first-time buyers, you started creating that energy for the move-up market. So that sounds pretty normal.
Anecdotally, it's just not something you hear.
So this is they're actually buying. It's not that they're thinking about
This is the actual people who bought in the last year. 53% are first-time buyers, and here's why. So here's where it gets kind of contrarian. Homes, despite being more expensive than they've been in recent years, they are more affordable than they've been in decades because of the exceptionally low mortgage rates we have right now. So the average homeowner today spends 15% of their income on their mortgage. 30 years ago in the 80s, they spent 30%.
Oh yeah, it's outrageous. We all do.
So more people can afford to buy a home today based on their income. Now the one thing I want to point out here though, 53% of people are first-time buyers. That means 53% of buyers today have never worked with a real estate agent before. And this is massively then changing the way buyers are finding their real estate agent.
Meaning?
Meaning, I'm going to take you to the next myth.
Good, let's go to myth 2.
That personal referrals are the #1 way that buyers find a real estate agent. And we hear this all the time.
Right, everywhere.
So is this true? Yes, but I would say not for long. So what you're looking at here, the blue bars are what buyers said, how they found their real estate agent in the last year. The green bars are what sellers said. So 32% of buyers found their real estate agent via personal referral, but 28% found their real estate agent online. Sellers, it's almost even across the board. 23% of sellers found their real estate agent via a referral. 21% found them online. Why? Because more than half of buyers and sellers today, or more than half of buyers, are first time. They don't have any experience with a real estate agent before. Many of them are moving to a new place, so they're searching things like online reviews, looking online to find the agent.
So the matrix is, so I understand it, younger, millennial, totally comfortable searching on the internet, less likely to use referrals. They are buying houses, the myth is, and they're finding it through places like Zillow as opposed to referrals. Do I have it right?
More and more of them are. You know, still many people find their agent through a referral, but that online component is really catching up. And I would bet if we're sitting here a few years from now, we're going to see that surpass the personal referral.
What does that say? Does agents here ignore?
It says,
where do they get in the flow of that commerce?
Pay attention to your profile online. Even if you are still getting today most of your business through personal referrals, make sure that online profile is where it should be. Ask your current and former clients to review you online, because the other 57% of these buyers said they have read online reviews before choosing their agent. Even if it's a personal referral, they're going to search out that person and say, what have people reviewed?
Do you think you'll ever monetize? Someone proposed that Zillow could make some money by monetizing the profiles and the
I think the best consumer experience is to be able to find more information online more reviews, more information about agents and homes, and so we wouldn't want to ever do anything that would limit the amount of information.
So that was no, right? You said?
We wouldn't want to do anything that would
It's
limit
not on a whiteboard?
It's not something we're excited about right now.
I trust you, Amy. Go to number 3.
Yep. Okay, the home buying season begins in the spring, and buyers spend an average of 10 weeks shopping for a home. These are stats we see in a number of places. But the big thing here is we all think about the seasonality of real estate. Right. That the buyers and sellers come out in the spring, it peaks at some point in early summer, it dies down right about now in August, and the kids go back to school. Now this is true as far as transactions. But remember, home shopping, the real shopping here for a buyer begins long before they ever pick up the phone and call a real estate agent. So what I look at is I look at activity on Zillow and Trulia and StreetEasy in New York, and when do the buyers come back in mass? And this is where it's pretty interesting.
It used to be January, is that still?
Early January, but we're seeing it move back even more. And I'm not kidding you, a big day today, Christmas Day.
Ah, bored with your family, you go online.
But what did you get under the Christmas tree?
Ah, money?
Phone,
oh.
a tablet,
Ah.
maybe a new laptop. What's the first thing you do when you get your new iPhone? You go search out apps. It is our single biggest week for app downloads in that week between Christmas and New Year's. And so for agents, I mean, a lot of people take the month of December off. It's the slowest month of the year, but that's actually the month when you should be bolstering your online profile, when you should be asking for reviews, when you should say when this influx of buyers comes on Christmas Day and building up into January, that's when you actually want to be out there versus, you know, after the Super Bowl or traditionally when you always think about the home buying season.
It's a bummer, Amy. These people that work 24/7, 364 days a year now have to work Christmas Day. God, that was the one day they take off.
Well, you know, you were talking about bots. I mean, the idea here is you want to get your presence
right. No, I got it.
You want to spend that
totally.
slow time.
Go to New Zealand for 3 weeks and let the bot do it for you. Okay,
okay, we'll go to the next one.
Yeah, I mean to rush you here.
All right, millennials. Everyone loves to talk about millennials. They are a small fraction of home buyers. They are these kids that can't afford to buy a home anyway. They're strapped with college debt, and by the way, they like to rent everything. Is that true? So we do know that millennials love to rent. Right? Millennials don't want to own a car. They'd rather rent one when they need them. They don't want to go spend $400 on a new dress. They use Rent the Runway. They don't own a CD. They don't even own music on iTunes. They rent it, right? So you would think then that millennials also only want to rent homes. Right. So we asked people about what do you think about homeownership? So what you're looking at here is we asked people for their attitudes on homeownership, and the different bars are the different age groups. So the green bar is millennials, aged 18 to 34. It goes up by age to the light blue bar is people 65 and older. So we said, do you agree with this statement? Owning a home is necessary for a good life. Highest category, millennials. Owning a home is, I need to own a home to be respected in society. Highest category, millennials. Owning a home provides a person more freedom, millennials. Owning a home is the best long-term investment.
So they seem very Americanized, these millennials. Like they're buying into the whole dream here.
They most largely align with the 65 and older crowd. Yeah. Millennials really want to own homes. They want to, this American dream, but can they? Yeah. And are they? Well, they are. This is where the data we saw this year massively varies from data over the last decade. In 2016, the average home buyer is 36 years old. And in fact, more than half, 53% of home buyers today are millennials.
Cool.
So this is where your first-time buyers are coming from who have never worked with a real estate agent before. And millennials spend all of their lives on their phones. Okay? So they're searching for real estate on a phone. They're finding a real estate agent on the phone. They're looking at listings, and you know what they're doing? You know the phone experience. This is how you look at things. What happens if the photos are fuzzy, if they have a weird watermark, if there's only 3 of them? You move on to the next one. So people are making split-second decisions driven by the fact of the technology they use, and whether or not, you know, we may think so, millennials are our buyers' audience today, and that's only going to keep growing.
So they're part of the mainstream. They're no longer cool, different, and special, right?
Yeah.
That's what I said. number 5.
All
Now,
right, this is our
FSBOs, this
FSBO.
always gets everybody interested.
Yeah, you know, whenever I come to one of these things, I always have, you know, someone approach me and talk about the fact that on Zillow, when you shop for a home, we have FSBOs next to for sale by agent listings. And it's a small proportion because it is a small proportion of listings overall, but we have always chosen that to show buyers the most complete picture of the housing stock. We put them side by side, and it's a decision that's been controversial in the industry. But in this survey, where we talked to thousands and thousands of buyers this year, we wanted to understand if seeing a FSBO, as the theory goes, if seeing a FSBO does indeed drive buyers to not work with a real estate agent. And so we asked them, did you shop on Zillow? And if you did you work with a real estate agent? And this was one of the results that I would say the result was bigger than I even imagined it to be. We found that buyers using Zillow, where they saw FSBOs and for sale by agents side by side, were actually 32% more likely to work with an agent.
Why do you think that is? Better pictures, pretty pictures of agents?
I think the reality is, and we've seen this, most buyers work with a real estate agent, right? In the decade.
So it didn't affect them one way or the other?
It hasn't, no. And if anything, it's helping buyers to find a more complete picture of the housing market. And what I hear from agents who tend to spend a lot of time on Zillow is that they love the FSBOs because they can reach out to those sellers and they can say something like, hey, I noticed your home's been on the market for 6 weeks, it's not moving. I know this neighborhood, I can help you. It's a great introduction ground to potential clients. So the myth here that buyers seeing FSBOs in some way drives them to not work with an agent is just not true.
Gotcha. Thank you for all that. We kind of wrapped it up, right?
Yeah.
Tell us some secret project you're working on that you've never told anybody. Come on. Something.
Come on.
Anything.
I mean, I can tell you, so this is actually going to be a pretty massive research report that we're going to put out.
And when can we all get our hands on it?
This fall.
Okay.
And there's
Give it to Inman first, and we'll send it out to everybody.
I will. Maybe
Okay,
we'll have
great.
some sort of
Good.
exclusive with you. But
Let's
they
do
will
it.
be available for everyone to have. I think there's going to be a lot of really juicy info in there. And like I said, counterintuitive info that may substantially change the way you think about interacting with consumers based on who they are today.
Great. Now, I wrote an article recently that said everything's going great. The only thing that could hurt you is hubris. How do you control hubris in a company that just seems to be killing it at every turn? You
know, I told you I spend so much of my time internally on the people. And one thing we've always enjoyed at Zillow Group is we really have an amazing culture. I mean, I've been with the company since we were about a dozen people 11 years ago. I've spent a lot of my own personal time thinking deeply about culture. How do we make this a great place to work, a great place where we can hire and retain people? And as you get bigger and as your brand becomes more successful, it's really, really important for any organization of any size to look inward and say, are we the people we want to be, that we've set out to be? Are we hiring people that align with that? And really be strict on how we define culture and how we define success, which is internally hiring the best people to do the best things they've ever done in their career.
By the way, I will announce a secret. We have decided to sue Zillow, and the reason is when you settled the lawsuit, our page views went down, and so it's hurt our business, so it feels like constraint of trade.
I know,
Okay.
I do feel for you on that one, Brad.
Amy, great to have you in the industry.
Thank you. Thank you.